Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to have a little bit of a discussion because I have a theory that the Nintendo Switch, and probably Switch Lite as well, and also the Switch OLED, all of them are about to receive a price drop, and this would be the very first price drop of their entire generation. So yeah, we have a pretty fun video today. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So the style of this video, or the way I want it to come across, is like a community or some friends having a discussion. I have 5 or 6 reasons right here. I've done research on these, and I think all of these points are valid. All of these reasons will be pointing towards why I think the Nintendo Switch line of consoles will be getting a price drop very, very soon. So before we get started, if you could hit a like and subscribe, that would truly mean the world to me. And follow your boy on Twitter and Instagram so we can keep the community growing. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get into this video. Reason number 1 is, well, the Nintendo Switch 2. And it's not specifically because there is a new console coming out or new generation of consoles. I think if Nintendo does a price drop for the line of Nintendo Switch consoles, it will kind of not distract, because it's not like we're all dumb enough to be like, whoa, what the hell is going on over there? But it will soften the blow of the price of the Nintendo Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch 2 is $450 for the console, $500 for the bundle. We're all saying drop the price. This is directed more at the games, but still, the console is still really expensive when you think about it. Like, I know inflation and the cost of living and tariffs and the Japanese yen and all these things going into it, but it's still a very expensive console. Now, Nintendo is not going to drop the price of the Switch 2. It's just not going to happen, and I doubt they're going to drop the price of the games. What they could do, though, is say, hey, the Nintendo Switch is now on sale. I think even if they drop $50 off the price of all the consoles, that's more than fair. So then it's $300, $250, and now $150. Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome to me. Reason number 2 I have also ties into the Nintendo Switch 2. It's not with a price, but it's the actual console comparison. So let's just theorize for a moment and roleplay and play out the scenario. I'm a person getting into gaming for the first time ever, or getting a new console, and I want to go get a Nintendo Switch console. The Nintendo Switch 2 is hyped up, everybody's talking about this console. I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy one of these consoles for the first time. The Nintendo Switch OLED is $350 and has an OLED screen and has a million games to play. The Nintendo Switch 2 is $450, has an LCD screen, even though it's HDR and we know it's going to be incredible. I'm talking about the casual consumer, right? So they see a $450 console with an LCD screen that has less games. So to them, it makes 0 sense to get the new console when the older console has an OLED screen, it's cheaper, and it has more games. Nintendo needs to get that Nintendo Switch OLED out of there as soon as possible. Reason number 3 is a very straightforward and simple reason. And if you think Nintendo doesn't care about this, I would say you're probably wrong, because it's just so cool. Becoming the best-selling video game console of all time. I think currently it's the PS2 with 160 million consoles, and I think for the longest time they had like 155 or something, and then they magically found like 5 million consoles sold or something like that, maybe last year. I do think the Nintendo Switch is currently at like 153, right around there somewhere, and then maybe the DS is like 154 or something like that. I'll be putting this all on the screen right now, but dude, if we do a price drop and everybody who already has a Switch buys another Switch, and then maybe you have some Xbox and PlayStation fans get their very first Switch, and not only does this help Nintendo get the best-selling console of all time, this introduces new people to the console who will probably go out and buy the Nintendo Switch 2, if not right away, maybe in the future, or it just plants a seed that will eventually grow. You know what I mean? I do think the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be massively popular. The demand's going to be high, and I think it's going to sell 50 million consoles eventually, maybe even 100 million. I do not think it gets close to the Nintendo Switch, just because too many things had to happen for the Switch to get where it's at. Maybe it does, maybe I'm wrong, and I could be wrong, you know what I mean? But I think if Nintendo has any shot, like ever again, it's with a Switch, so hit that goal. Reason number 4 kind of circles back to reason number 1. The Nintendo Switch 2 is expensive, right? And we know it's expensive, but Nintendo also knows it's expensive. And I am paraphrasing a little bit, but essentially Doug Bowser was like, yeah, the console, some people can't afford it, but if they can't afford it, go play the Switch. It's cheaper, or go buy a Switch or something like that. And I do think people kind of took it out of context. I think what he was saying was actually like, hey, we know it's expensive. That's why we're going to support the Nintendo Switch for as long as possible, so people can still get new games and still experience some of the stuff that's going to the Nintendo Switch too, which is awesome. You know what I mean? But the way it was going around, it's like, man, I hate this Doug Bowser guy. And I'll be honest, I'm really not a big fan of him. Nobody will ever beat my GOAT Reggie. Ever, ever, ever. So even though we know this console is expensive, Nintendo also knows it's expensive. And they're saying the Nintendo Switch is a cheaper option. So if they do a price drop, it's like, hey, the Switch 2 is expensive. Go buy one of these $200 Switches right now, man. That will hold you over. And you're like, damn, that does make sense. I'm going to go buy one of those. Reason number 5 is on May 8th, I believe, Nintendo has a financial report. And this is like an investor meeting and a lot of stuff is going to be happening. I do not think it happens before this date, but if it's happening, I think it's like right after this. And I think there's going to be another Nintendo Direct. This is going to be for the Switch 2. It's probably going to have a little bit of Switch news in there. And I can see them doing a price drop. On May 8th, Nintendo meets with investors, and they tell those investors like, hey, look, not only do we have the Switch 2 coming up, and we're going to make $100 quadrillion off of that, we're also going to do a price drop, the very first one ever for the Nintendo Switch. So not only are people going to be buying the Switch 2, they're also going to be buying the Nintendo Switch in like the 8th or 9th year, which is insane. And reason number 6, I think it's the time to do it. And I'll show you a prime example of what I mean. I was looking back at Nintendo consoles, and then when a new generation of consoles came out, like when they did the price drop, and I had to go off of the Wii to the Wii U, because the Wii U to the Switch was different. They were coming off a failure. They probably dropped the price of the Wii U way before the Switch came out. So that's not going to cut it, right? So I thought, let's go back to the Wii, which was massively successful, and see when they did the price drop for the Wii, and then when the Wii U came out. And this can probably mimic the Switch to the Switch 2. So as you can see right here, on November 18th, 2012, that is the day the Wii U came out, and that is the day the world almost ended. Everybody talked about December 2012. It was November 18th. That's the day humanity started to fall apart. So just 1 month before, on October 15th, 2012, Nintendo drops the price of the Wii to $130. Their most popular console of all time up into the Switch. Home console, not the DS, but their biggest selling console, the one that everybody had, even grandmas had. Reggie, again, is the reason why this console was so damn popular. They dropped the price just 1 month before the Wii U came out. So I think this mimics perfectly from the Switch to the Switch 2. 1 month before the Switch 2 will come out will be May. May 8th is the investor meeting. Right after that, dude, have a Nintendo Direct, drop the price of the consoles. The stars are all aligning here. So ladies and gentlemen, these are just my theories about why I think the Nintendo Switch line of consoles are finally going to get a price drop, and why I think it's going to be happening like pretty soon, like 3-4 weeks or something. I don't know, sometime in May. But yeah, in the comments below, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions about this. Obviously, there's a good chance I'm probably wrong, but like I said, I want this to be like some friends just hanging out, talking about video games. So in the comments below, let me know what you guys are thinking. If you made it to this part of the video, hit a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. If you could follow me on Twitter and Instagram, it really helps the community grow. So I'd really appreciate that too. And you guys know me, I'll see you very soon with a new video. Peace out.